The answer to London's multi-billion-dollar question: how to house its exploding population. 50,000 new faces each year. In Newham 2 years ago, there were 32,000 people waiting for a council house. The council's solution: send them to Stoke. It's not quite as desperate now. Housing waiting lists are considerably lower. In Hammersmith, there were 8,171 people in 2012. A year later, it was just 768. Behind the extraordinary collapse is not a sudden surge in supply of council houses. Instead, applicants no longer meet new local criteria.
Anyone who wants to own his own home can expect help from a Conservative government.
Council housing has been in decline since the 80s. Margaret Thatcher's mission to turn us all into homeowners has seen the number of council houses drop dramatically. Lila is a working mother and one of the lucky few. She has a flat in Zone 3, but she waited for years, living in temporary accommodation, moving every week.
I stayed in a hostel for about a year and a half. And obviously from there I went staying on hotels after hotels. So I was literally moving from one place to another, staying for 2-3 months and then moving on. So I waited for about 3.5 years.
Housing associations are having to borrow more money to develop new homes. The amount of grant they receive from the government has decreased. Local authorities can't afford to house people who can't pay.
I think it's getting more and more difficult because of higher rents, because there is less traditional social housing being built. It's more and more difficult for people who really need it to stay living in London.
The solution for some local authorities has been to rent out some of their own former council homes from landlords who bought them under the Right to Buy scheme in the 1980s.
Well, what it means is when these homes were council homes, they were let out at rents which were about 30 or 40% of the market rates. Now they're being rented back by local authorities at full market rates to house the people that are homeless and are desperate for a place to live. And all this money is going into the pockets of private landlords. And we also have to remember that these people are being supported, in most cases, by housing benefit. And that's just pushing up the housing benefit bill even further.
The reality for people waiting for a council house is the same for those struggling to buy or rent. Move out of London or simply make do. Hanrahan, ITV News.